Solomon presents an important and perhaps shocking contrast in Proverbs 15:8. The Lord detests the sacrifice of the wicked, but the prayers of the upright pleases him. In this proverb, Solomon seems to be saying that even the sacrifices and prayers of the wicked are an abomination to God. Sacrifices are forms of prayer, and the prayers of the wicked are not acceptable to God. By contrast, the prayers of the upright are delightful to God. Proverbs 15:29 adds to the contrast. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayers of the righteous. We are reminded of what James says when he encouraged his readers to draw near to God and God would draw near to them in James 4:8. James adds specificity to those instructions when in the same verse he exhorts readers to deal properly with sin. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. They couldn't expect to have close fellowship with God if they were continually walking in sin. God identified Israel as the people he chose. They were to bring their sacrifices, but as Proverbs 15:8 says, religious rituals are no value to a wicked person. When the Israelites were steeped in sin, he told them to bring their worthless offerings no longer. Their feast had become burdensome to him. He would hide his eyes from them, and though they multiplied their prayers to him, he would not hear them. God's people needed to be obedient to the covenant they had agreed to under Moses. Going through the motions would not help them because the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. The New Testament believers have a similar caution. Paul tells husbands, for example, that if they are not living with their wives in a considerate and understanding way, then their prayers are hindered in 1 Peter 3:7. The bottom line is that the Bible doesn't tell us that God always answers our prayers. For in some instances, our prayers can be hindered by our own sin, even to the point that the prayers of the wicked are an abomination to God. On the other hand, James explains that the prayer of a righteous person can be very effective in James 5:16. So what makes a person righteous? In James 2:23, James quotes Genesis 15:6, reminding readers that Abraham was declared to be righteous by God when he believed in Yahweh. Though throughout this epistle, James challenges believers to put their faith into action. James shows that no one can be righteous in position without being righteous in practice. The other apostles agree. Paul chastises the Corinthian believers for walking like infants or fleshly people. The husband who has his prayers hindered in 1 Peter 3:7 is a believer and righteous in his standing before God, but he is not righteous in how he walks with his wife. In each of these cases, the writers exhort readers that have intimate fellowship with God to have their prayers be effective. They need to keep walking with him, not just standing in him. Solomon equates being upright with pursuing righteousness. The prayers of the righteous are a delight to God. By contrast, the worship rituals of the wicked are an abomination to God. As the prophet Samuel put it, to obey is better than sacrifice. God has told us how we can be righteous in both our position by faith and our practice walking in the Spirit. We cannot play games with God. He sees the heart, and even the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord. A pursuit of sin will affect our prayers and how God receives them.